like everyone thinks that open people, I feel like we have this expectation that you guys basically hook up all the time with everybody.
Yeah.
Which is like, who is it? You know, it doesn't really make sense.
Nobody.
But like in a monogamous person's head, it's like, this is all they do.
Lovers and friends of Open Late Podcast, welcome back. I'm your host, Jessica Esfandiary, and this week we have part 2 of Miss Alexys Calhoun, who is a dear sister of mine. She is part of the goddess community that's been on our retreats, as well as my former assistant. So this week we're diving into more of her journey and everything that she's been up to since being here. Here we go. If you really love somebody and you want to like hold them to their greatest, let them decide how they want to handle the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you're also taking away a growth opportunity.
Exactly. You're just taking away an experience from like bettering yourself and your partner, you know, whatever that is.
Yeah.
By like not being open and communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like such a, like, that's a huge thing in my relationship that I'm like, I'm so happy we can be like, I can communicate to you, like, you did this and it just pissed me off. And this is why. And I want to not let this happen again. Like, let's work on that. Which, like, being with somebody who like, communication isn't necessarily, like, the first thing that they want to do. Being, like, I can say that if you have a partner that isn't necessarily like that, by just being that way yourself, they will come into their own. Like, I'm not trying to change you. Like, I'm going to show you what this looks like for me, what communication looks like. I'm going to be that. And then if you are receptive to that and you can open your mind to be that kind of, you know, open person and you do it naturally, great. If you can't, then you're not for me. Yes. You know?
Which I just have to say and share, I love your relationship. I mean, we don't see each other all the time anymore, but I think I see you, I know you're happy, and I can tell, like, especially with that part, you've really found your person. Yeah. Like, it's very healthy. And when I think about people who are, like, choosing their relationship or choosing, like, monogamy consciously, you know, whatever that looks like, because I feel like we're all a spectrum. Yeah. Some people would say that, like, talking dirty about other people in the bedroom with your partner is, like, non-monogamy. And so it's, like, whatever.
It's whatever your definition is.
What I was going to say is, your relationship I look at as that. And to hear that you're using, like, these kinds of skills and tools and, like, communication skills, I guess is the word I'm looking for, with him makes a lot of sense. Your partner's great too. I feel like he's very emotionally intelligent. But how does he receive it? Has it been like you leading, you standing in like, this is me, and him kind of like rising to the occasion?
In a way, yes. I definitely feel like the emotional intelligence just from like my end and being able to model what that looks like, or at least what I would want in another partner, shows up in a way that's authentic and that is like, I care about you and this is why we're doing this. I'm not just like, I want to communicate so that I can tell you what I want, but I'm not going to listen to what you want, you know, which can also happen when people are like, this is how I am and just take me, like, this is, you know, which is like great, but to like a fault, like there's still give and take. There's still some things like I would want to talk about, like at the beginning of a relationship, like all the problems like right away, and like versus being like, he needed some space, you know, and I don't have to like be there right then and there. Like we can just like wait and maybe come back to this. Like that was something that he taught me that I had to learn. That is like, you don't always have to fix it, or like, I don't always have, like, I feel like one of the issues too that we had in our relationship was just me trying to be like a therapist, like a life coach, like everything at the same time. Like, well, this is why you did that. And he's like, no, just like relax. Like, I just didn't like your tone. Like, that was all. Yeah. I just didn't like your tone. It doesn't mean that I have like past trauma with like my, you know, third removed distant cousin. It's just, I didn't like your tone. And like, that was also a learning curve on my end, you know? And with Khaled, we have such big personalities, both of us, like very big. And he's like very flirty. Like he'll go somewhere and like get a drink from the bartender. I'm just like, okay. But like, I'm not jealous around it in the sense that like, he's going to leave me for this person because I'm secure in my relationship first. Yeah. You know?
Do you enjoy seeing that side of him?
He's very flirty. Just with the nurse, with the dentist. Like, it's
Right.
just, he's Arab. He's like, you know, like,
Yeah.
he's not American. He's just like, which is funny because in America, I feel like that's seen as flirty, where he is actually just being nice to women.
Right.
But he doesn't want anything sexual from them.
Yes.
You know?
Because we over-sexualize everything in this country.
And it's like people, like men in America, a lot of the time, I'm like, you're only nice to women that you want to sleep with. You're not nice to everybody.
Yes.
You know? And he's like, while I say it's flirty, he's just treating people like a human and having a conversation.
Is exactly what I learned from Pasha.
You know?
Khaled's Middle Eastern brother. Like, they're so similar. Everyone thinks like, and Pasha's actually, I feel like, toned down over the years, and maybe just like gotten older and
he's just
like
I don't want
less
to deal with
tired.
it. Like, I don't have enough time.
More tired, I mean. But he was like the flirtiest guy I really met, and I was like, oh yeah, he and my sort of internalized like cultural norms that I was projecting constantly, I thought he was really flirty. And when I very first met him, it wasn't even threatening because I was like looking for danger. But I was like,
but some women are looking for danger. They're
Yes.
like, my man's talking to that girl. Why is he talking to her? It's like, what?
yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to be like.
And it excited me. My like nervous system was like, oh, trauma bond, here we go. Like, I hadn't worked on a lot of this stuff yet. But it's so true. He is very just warm and jovial and wants to connect with people.
Yeah, it's not
really
even flirty.
cares.
It's just like just treating people all equally and just like wanting to have a conversation that goes, you know, that's having a conversation and meeting new people. And he always can talk to he'll be like, sometimes I feel like he'll meet people and then afterwards he's like, I don't like that person at all. I'm like, I could not tell that. Couldn't tell you. Could not see that until like maybe later on.
This is so funny.
You know, because it's just, he's just that charismatic.
I feel like when Pasha doesn't enjoy someone, he's even more like he like lays
Yes,
on.
because he has to ask more questions and have to be more. Yeah, exactly.
He's definitely taught me, like he's modeled so much that you catch more flies with honey.
Oh yeah,
or bees. Is it bees with honey?
You catch more flies, yeah, with honey than vinegar.
Yeah, I think it's bees though.
Is it
Why
bees?
do we want to catch flies? I don't know. Okay,
anyway.
this leads me to a topic. So you asked me this earlier, and it's kind of funny because we're talking about like are men being flirty or are men just being themselves. That if I ever felt like if I would meet a new woman, that I was trying to like get her into bed with us.
Yes.
Like if I developed female friendships, yeah. If I was trying to like
let me set the scenario. Like you're at a
Mm-hmm.
bar or something and you're just talking with a girl and then like maybe you're like, oh, that's my husband over there and he's like making out with somebody and they're like, what?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, we're like open. Like I wonder, like just me, like maybe being in that situation, right? Being like, oh, are you like trying to sleep with me? You know, because women are all about like me, you know,
right.
like, oh, it has to be about me, but that's normal, you know, and that's okay. But I wonder like if that has ever inhibited you from having like a friendship with somebody that you just saw as platonic.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic. This was a big learning curve for me. And also like a healing journey because I was so hyper vigilant about making sure people didn't feel that way that I actually probably blocked us from experiences that maybe women did want to have with us.
Right.
It's so funny. I would say now, no. Now I like don't give a shit. I've like grown into it. I'm like, this is me. Kind of how you were talking about earlier. I feel like in that realm of my life, I've gotten really comfortable. If someone else is feeling, you know, whatever way they are, like, oh, you're trying to, you know, questioning, then that's on them. And that's like their experience. So I don't try to manage it anymore. But in the beginning, for sure. I think I just blocked it a lot. Because I was like in that place. Of
You
like,
wanted to like
I don't want
manage.
anybody to feel that way. I never want any of our
mommy.
friends to think we're hitting on them. And so, but like we're all young and like very attractive. And we've had like on a couple occasions, we had the rule like no hooking up with friends, which kind of like goes out the window because like 10 years down the road, you have a lot of friends. It's
right.
gonna happen.
Everyone's your friend, yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a very good friend of ours who we're not like very close with anymore, but I was on a trip and her and Pasha like ended up getting drunk together one night and she kind of confessed that she had been like wanting this to happen But like I was so like, we're friends, there's no flirty energy. And with her, I like, that's not something I wanted with her. I wasn't like attracted to her in that way. But I think like they had a little bit of chemistry that was never really expressed. So yeah, I think I was constantly putting up like barriers and bumper lanes and making sure that things stayed like Betty Crocker kosher.
Right.
So no, I think because I was crazy.
Because like, you did try so much to circumvent that. Like that was never an issue.
And I would say now, so it's so funny because there's like, I really have to think about it because I'm like, well, what about in the middle? Because like obviously with Lauren didn't know we were open, she says. We recorded an episode with her where she's like, yeah, I was on your couch drinking wine and then your husband and I kissed and I didn't even realize, like, she was starting to put together the pieces. But in that situation, then probably, yeah. She's like, okay, they want to like hook up with me, but it was already happening.
Right, it was in the moment. It wasn't like from the jump.
Yeah. And nowadays, because the relationship has been like such an evolution, we just like don't ever go out. Like, I mean, we do, but we're always like with our own friends, in our own crew. It's been a long time since we've been to a party together, which obviously that environment is like people want to hook up. But we used to go out to like bars and like meet women and like flirt and, you know, whatever, take people home. But only people that like really wanted to, I guess, where it was clear that like they were also super flirty. And now, I mean, to your other point, like how often are you dating? How often are you going out?
It's like everyone thinks that open people, I feel like we have this expectation that you guys basically hook up all the time with everybody.
Yeah.
Which is like, who has the time? You know, it doesn't really make sense.
Nobody.
But like in a monogamous person's head, it's like, this is all they do.
Yeah, and I feel like from the perspective of being in a relationship, right, or whatever, like you can use the term like primary partnership or nesting partner, like we're together and we're open. I think for people who are like solo poly or just like, you know, dating and open but uncoupled, sure, they might have a lot more time to date. But because we have each other and like I'm still in it's pretty much still a relationship with Lauren, even though it's platonic, but like she's still a life partner of mine, and so many other aspects of my life like really limit just how much we're gonna go meet other people. In fact, I just recorded an episode which you prompted because you were like, this is happening on TikTok, you need to do it, like 2020 dating wrapped, but make it poly. It's gonna come out, I mean, by the time this episode's out, it'll be out. And I was like, oh, I'm like looking at the list of people that I've like hooked up with or dated, and like 50% of the list was out of the country. So like I literally have to be like on
you have to be on vacation, like in chill mode,
without Pasha to, I think, express that side of myself. Yeah, not because like I can't do it or I don't want to do it here, but like when I'm on vacation, it's just easier. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a hot affair. You know, I'm not gonna like spend a ton of my time at home doing it. And frankly, like as I've gotten older, I need a lot less like connection and consistency with partners, and I'm really happy like having like a one night stand or doing whatever. Whereas, you know, if you asked me 3-4 years ago, I'd be like, no, if I'm gonna like hook up with a guy, it needs to be like somebody that I care about, somebody that, you know,
like you've changed I guess what you're seeking or what you have time for.
What I have time for.
Because, like, I mean, you're amazing. I'm surprised people just are like, I'm in love with you, like, all the time. Like, men that are like, leave your husband for me. And you're just like, what? You know, which leads me to my other point of, do you find that your relationship with men that you may consider, like, you consider platonic or just friends, like, have you ever had that issue where they're like, you know, always trying to get more because they think they can because they know that you're open and that your husband would be okay with that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I feel really lucky in the way that my really close relationships with my guy friends, that's never really happened. I mean, I have one guy friend that I've hooked up with that you know, but that never felt like it would, like he's really emotionally intelligent too, so it was like, okay, we're friends and this is happening. But all of my guy friends, I feel like we're so close and intimate. There's never really been anyone who's like wanted to be romantic, but we get like almost everything else out of those relationships, like butt sex, because we all go so deep with each other. And then there's been a couple guys who've been like red flags, and as soon as you can tell in the conversations and the language, like very early on, where if I feel like someone's like fishing for like something that might be wrong with my relationship, and that's why I'm open, or that's why I'm spending time with them or going on a date with them, the moment that I sense that, I'm like, oh, red flag. And I've had that happen where guys are like, well, something must be, off, or you wouldn't be here. And it's like, well, you don't really understand non-monogamy then, or polyamory really. And I would like cut it off right then and there. I don't really want to entertain.
So much easier to read than women. Like
they
give you everything. Like you look at them and you're like, I know exactly what you want. I know exactly what you're going for. Versus I feel like, I mean, you are bisexual obviously, so you date women too. Like, do you notice such a difference between like when you are maybe with, because I'm sure you've experienced like a woman wanting to hook up with you, but you being like, oh, you just don't really that. Like I'm sure that versus like that man, versus that man is probably like much different experience,
It's very black and white with men. Women are tougher to read. I think we are so much more coded because we're conditioned to not like reveal our true selves all the time, which is
mysterious and poised.
Not
it's
tell
exhausting.
You what I want. It really is. Like
be a lady.
Yes.
Always when I was growing up, be a lady. I'm like, I just want to burp. It's a bodily function.
But not too much of a good girl, and do this. And it reminds me of that, what's her name from Sex and the City? She has that really interesting...
Charlotte?
No, Miranda.
The lawyer?
The lawyer, yeah. She produced this like video, and it's like, be a lady, but not touch such a good girl. Eat that, don't do that. She's too fat, she's too skinny. You've never seen this?
Oh no, she's like not in Sex and the City, just her.
No, it like went viral.
No, I'll have to look into that.
Oh, I'm going to link it in the show notes. It's incredible. Okay. Everyone should watch it. But it is that. It's like all the things society tells you to be, and they're all such a big contradiction.
Yes.
And it's like, I think that's one of the reasons that women are a bit more coded. We're like afraid to really reveal ourselves, or have been for a long time, and get vulnerable because, we are more vulnerable in a lot of ways than men are in society. Like, we don't have as much power. We don't have the same, equal rights that they do. And so a lot more can be taken from you as a woman. And it's like, if you don't show your true nature, then if people want to attack, they're not really attacking you. They're attacking like this version of you that you've showed. Or
my issue where I'm too strong, or I'm too this, or I'm too that, and I'm like a bitch.
Yeah.
Or I'm just like, oh, she's a lot. Because I just speak my truth, and I am like the same way here that as I am with my parents, as I am with my boyfriend, as I am at the gym, as I am with like at yoga, like just the same. Like
yes.
I have shined my light or dim my light for like too long that now I'm just whatever. But a lot of the time, like a strong, like, Scorpio leaning kind of woman can be seen as like, oh, she's just a bitch, when it's like, no, I'm just trying to get exactly what a man gets.
Right.
For me.
I'm being direct,
which is not okay if you have a vagina, apparently.
Wait, do you like Meghan Markle?
I have mixed feelings.
Okay, so I never knew much about her. I'm not like really big on the royal family and pop culture in general, which I think from working with me, you would teach me a lot of things.
I love certain pop culture, but like I just could never, for me, Meghan, and actually Caleb and I were having a conversation about this, where like and I don't know if this will be taken a bunch of different ways, but it could be controversial as far as like our thoughts, is like, I feel like because, she is half black and half white, right? I feel like if she was to be accepted into that family, she wouldn't have made as big of a deal about the whole racial inequality issues. But because she did face racism, which of course a lot of mixed women, do, and just women of color, women of color in general do face, I feel like and this is just us guessing, like we have no idea, right? This is pop culture. Like I feel like if she was accepted, she wouldn't have made a big deal or a big stink about it. Like she would have been fine with going along with everything. But because there was that discrimination, she was like, no, I'm gonna like make this known, and kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
well, if
I
that's
don't know
the case,
so I
actually feel like all the more reason to then.
All the more reason to like her, or
no, all the more reason to go the route that she went.
Yeah. Which.
Yeah, but I see your point. I mean, I don't know. I've never really thought about that. The reason I bring her up is she has a podcast, and I think it just came out in like October, November. And I just devoured it while I was traveling, and it's so good. It's all about basically the labels that women get put on them, the boxes that women get put into, and the stereotype. It's called archetypes, and kind of talking about like being the bitch, being direct. So she recorded different episodes with these different archetypes and then interviewed women like Serena Williams about being ambitious, right? Seen as a bad thing when women are ambitious, or being, you know, a bimbo. She interviewed Paris Hilton about like being the dumb blonde role.
Well, she did that intentionally.
Right. Yeah. Which I had no idea. And in the interview, she shares that. But I feel like to what we're speaking to, you know, there's all of these qualities that men can walk around the world and live their lives. But the moment that we display like the same qualities as them, we get labeled as something else.
Yes.
It's a really cool podcast.
Interesting. Maybe it'll change my view watching that. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know some people, like, we don't know these people. They're still real people, but they're like celebrities or whatever. I'm like, there's just something that like rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what it is, but maybe I'll listen to her podcast and find something that I like, because I do love when women speak about that, and it is such a big deal. I mean, me being a small business owner, even in a space where like cake artistry necessarily was not is seen now for women, but like for the most part, like a lot, like you see like Cake Boss and Buddy Velastro, and like a lot of them are men, like in that kind of a industry where it's like, oh, you can be a little homemaker and have your little bake shop, but like this is for the big boys. Like we do the big wedding cakes, we do the big like, you know, card shaped cakes and stuff like that. That is still kind of more male driven business.
What do you think it's going to take to break that mold?
I think it's already...
Pun intended.
Oh my gosh. I think it's already being broken. I think I can make stuff out of my house and be able to legally sell it and have like be insured. Yeah. That number has like tripled or like quadrupled or something since like 2020, obviously because everybody is now like working from home and wants their own side hustle. And a lot of the people in that space are women. Yeah. And I found a lot of community on TikTok and on Instagram with like, I have like friends in Dubai and like friends in London and friends all over the US that are like my baker friends. And it's just a huge community. I've actually made a Facebook group for them specifically. We have like almost 400 people in this group, which originally started because I wanted to talk about like mental health and the way that it affects like people who have small businesses, because it is such a big part of I think why people face a lot of burnout is because they're not taking care of themselves and they're just like working. And I can say that from experience, which is why like I've decided to go down to part-time, because it's just like it's too much.
Yes.
Like your side hustle doesn't have to be your main job, and like, you don't have to monetize your passion. Like these are kind of things that I'm slowly like realizing that maybe aren't for me. But being in that, a lot of women now are small business owners and are starting to like rise up to like the potential, like not me to like shame OnlyFans or anything, but like I love when a girl has OnlyFans, but like I also love when like they can turn that into something else. Like they're like, okay, now I'm gonna start like podcasting about it, or now I'm gonna sell a book, or like now, you know, like I love being able to capitalize on your sex and stuff, but I also love when women are able to kind of like take kind of that expertise and even multiply it and like be a role model or be like an asset to like the women in your community. You know, because there's nothing wrong with just like taking your clothes off and being on OnlyFans and, you know, having video of that, great. But also like as a woman, like we know how we're seen. Like you can't not talk about like the way that people view a lot of these like millionaire, amazing, successful girls on OnlyFans. But like there's one girl that I follow on TikTok that has an OnlyFans, and I didn't even know she had an OnlyFans. Like, I just followed her on TikTok because she had like 8 million followers or something. And she's this girl in Australia. She's just like vlogging, and I'm just like watching her eat. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, she has an OnlyFans. I had no idea. Like, I love that because she is like so... she has like her own business, but she also like does a lot of like reach back to her community, and is like very multidimensional. Exactly. Like there's nothing wrong with being a sex worker, and there's nothing wrong with like making money off of sex, but I love when women are able to also like be more, right? You know, not to diminish that.
Saying. Yeah. I mean, I think, well, what you're saying too, and what I'm hearing is like you love to see like the growth and the arc with people. Yes. Because you're doing that too. It's like, okay, where are you reinventing yourself? And I think for many of us, we're really embracing this whole you know, new kind of era. Like we're in this new place where it's great to change careers, where like our parents didn't do that. They just like, they did this one thing and like that was their life.
And you
so
have to be
for
at
us,
a job
with
for
the
3 years.
freedom- yeah. And so I love that. I also, what it does make me think about, because I'm someone who's realizing like I don't have to share my whole life with people. And I've done that a lot, where it's like, oh, I'm learning this new thing. I've got to like turn it into a way to like inspire other people. So it's like, maybe if somebody does just have the OnlyFans, they do have all this stuff like going on in their life, but maybe they're not sharing it publicly.
Yeah.
So there's like that aspect of it too. But I do appreciate what you're saying. And I think it is great when women can then take something and kind of catapult it into a new realm.
And there's nothing wrong with obviously just doing it and like that's what you are, but like we're here to talk about like certain things, and like I love when someone is able to like Bianca Taylor, for example, doesn't do OnlyFans anymore, and
Ginger. Like Ginger does like
either.
so much activism. Oh well, no, she still has her OnlyFans, but
she
like,
also does a lot of active. I know I follow her.
Yeah, I mean, she's like takes it into like how can I educate, and she's like into philosophy, and so like sharing all these multidimensional.
Yeah, she's very interested. Has a very good Instagram. Like she says things I'm like, oh my god, like I didn't even think. Like you know, just kind of like that. I love that women can be sex figures. I love that. Like for like embrace it, but I also like. What else? Like I want to know about you.
Right.
I think because we are getting into that educational kind of era and content or whatever, I'm like, okay, what else is there? And I think that sells lately just as much as sex. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I love it. And it really, I mean, it kind of takes us back to the beginning of like women embracing and owning their sexuality, and at the same time being whatever other version of themselves they want to, and like being okay with showing all of that to the world. Yeah.
And if you don't want to show it, then that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know?
If you're still learning how to show
then
everyone always asks me if I'm going to start an OnlyFans, like, because I have this show. So it's like,
I would never correlate the two.
People do.
It's not the same.
People do. I mean, because people over-sexualize non-monogamy. Exactly. 101. But here we are. Well, this has been delightful.
I know. I feel like we've been here for hours, but I don't even know how long it's been.
Well, you had, because you came and then we didn't start for like an hour.
Oh, that's fine. I love it. I could talk all day. I'm like always. That's what I do best. I feel like is talking people's ear off.
Let's end with this new series, Asking for a Friend. Is there any last question that you would want to ask for a friend?
I love the title because it implies like, I'm asking for a friend, but I'm asking for me.
I think so.
I don't know, because I know you like so well.
Yeah.
And like I feel like if there is anything, I will just like I've called you and asked you questions and stuff. And I guess now that you are like stepping into like motherhood, and it is, I'm always curious, like how do people maintain like non-monogamous relationships when they have kids, because that is like, you know, obviously another added layer. Like, do you plan on I'm assuming you're still going to be non-monogamous, but like I'm interested to know, how do you think your kids kind of growing up seeing that, like how are you going to bring it up, or like how do you think that I mean, I'm sure that's a huge question, because it's like, how do I even do that, you know, but I'm just curious to see like what that looks like, what that looks like for like a kid to be like, you know what, I don't know, like
my mommy has a girlfriend.
My mommy has a girlfriend, and like people in school be like, oh, like what? And also kind of ties you back into this whole like, I don't know if you saw Sam Smith's new video, but he is just being like freaking taken down by the media and by a lot of gay people themselves, like because
what could he do?
Because nothing. He had on like a certain like top and like a very girly outfit with his like nipples out and stuff in his video, and people are like, this isn't not a good role model, this is not for kids, blah blah blah, this and that, and it's like, well, it's not for your kids. And someone commented, and I think I shared it on my close friends, I don't know if you read it, but like where it said, if your only argument with something is because it's not good for kids, and like that's your argument about something, it like probably means that you're not a very good parent and you don't know how to have these open dialogues with your kids. So like, take a look at yourself first.
Yeah, I love that you just automatically get that and point that to like the lack of sex ed that we have, period.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, culture education.
Or just like, not everything is for kids either. Like, why does it have to... I'm not making shit for your kids, you know?
I'm like being myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not for kids right now.
Exactly.
Well, so I had no idea, mainly because I don't do a whole lot of pop culture.
TikTok.
Like, yeah.
So me on TikTok, like, what's the tea today?
We are gonna relaunch a TikTok eventually for Openly. But to your question and to your point, because I do get this a lot, and a lot of what I've started saying is actually don't know, and I'll figure it out when we get there, because I can have like all the best laid plans, right, about how I want to parent and how I want to introduce, or not even introduce, but how I want to go about it. Because I'm not going to ever hide it from my kids, there won't, I think, ever need to be like that introduction talk. They're just going to grow up in a world where they'll know Lauren, they'll see her.
Oh yeah,
and
they just know.
You know, even though I said earlier that we're platonic, like we still like kiss on the mouth, and it's still like very clear that there's intimacy there. And who knows, if we have other partners that become big parts of our lives, then I think they'll meet them as well. The same way, like, if you're not married and you're a single parent or a parent who's dating, like, at an appropriate amount of time, you would, like, introduce your kids to that person. And I think that, of course, in the first couple of years, we probably won't have time for anything.
Yeah.
However, we are both of the mindset right now, and we talk about this a lot, where we want to bring our kids into our lives. Because I think what's detrimental is when you change your whole life and orient yourself to be around your kids, and then what happens is, like, children sense that and they're like, oh, you're depending on me to regulate your emotions, and like I'm like the most important thing in your life, which isn't the healthiest thing for kids, actually.
No, I think treat your little kids like grown-ups, like little adults.
They need to see like healthy, loving relationships, and I think if they see multiple healthy, loving relationships and they grow up with that as the norm, it's not confusing. And then they'll just see that, like, okay, a lot of the world does this thing, but my parents do something else, and it's very healthy.
I don't even know if they'll have that awareness, because if you're just, now that I'm thinking about it, like, if you're just growing up in that setting, it's not weird to you. It's only weird because, like, your friend's mom told her it's weird, and then she's telling you that it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, it's just like growing up with gay parents. Like, I doubt they tell their kids that they're gay. You know, they're just existing. Like, they're just living. Like, these are my moms, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, because I don't think the culture in society is what is telling them something else.
Exactly.
You're just modeling being yourself, and then that for them is going to look normal to them.
I hope so. And I mean, I think that multiple emotionally intelligent adults around your kids is a positive thing, right? Then they have more people. I think one of the big problems with, you know, and this is not an attack at all on like monogamous people, monogamous culture, you know, nuclear family parenting. But if you look at the nuclear family, especially in like our disappearing middle class and like lower income minority communities and families, like you're just seeing people that are way under-resourced, stressed, barely surviving. Like, so imagine if the world looked different and we're open to like multiple adults in the house, even like multi-generational like parenting, and like what we used to live with, where like your grandparents would live with you. Like I grew up that way. Like my great grandmother lived with us, and my grandfather lived with us for a long time. And I think this is just a different version of that, you know? Like my best friend Nicole lives with us, and you know, it's a completely platonic relationship. Like we're not romantically involved with her, but she's going to help us raise
it's like weird. You know? Like this kind of like, why does your best friend live with you guys if you're married? Why not?
We've actually never not had a roommate, and everyone's like, you guys are doing it right. Because we always have like, you know, somebody here in the home. Like there's always like a house sitter, dog sitter. Yeah. But also like, it's not just about that. Yeah, it's like they add so much to our lives.
Yes.
And it creates like a balance. And she's like fully on board to help us, because we've had this conversation very openly. Like, are you sure you want to live here? We are about to like potentially have twins.
Right.
Because I would never. Yeah, the plan is to put in 2 embryos.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
2?
Yeah.
What?
I hope they both take.
Oh my God.
But it's like, yeah, are you ready for, like, are you on board?
Yeah.
And I think I think this is what she shares, like she really wants to. And it's like, so that's almost like a third parent in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because she'll be interacting with them so much. So everyone would be totally fine with that. But like if it's a romantic involvement, then it's weird and they want to attack it.
Interesting. Because I grew up without like a dad present until I was like 10. But my mom lived with her best friend. And she was kind of like, we always called her like my uncle or like another dad, because she was the opposite of my mom. She wasn't like as girly. She was more like, she would take me to the beach and we would teach me how to surf and like do all these fun things. But yeah, obviously if that was like her partner, then it would be seen as weird. But since it was just her friend, it was like totally normal for me to grow up with that. But I would love to see also an episode of like how race plays into the monogamy as well, and just kind of like, I think that a lot of people, and I just thought about this and that's why I'm just throwing it out there, a lot of people are like, oh, that's white people shit, like this is white people shit.
Interesting.
Which for me, for a long time, I thought that, you know, and you're white, obviously, so it's probably not something that you think about, or maybe you do, but like
I think I do, and starting this show has forced me to look at it in a cultural view, and like with different races and how non-monogamy and polyamory really interact. And what I've found is that this actually, frankly, most African Americans that have been practicing polyamory have been doing it for a while, and we're like kind of leading the crusade to normalize it and to like gain visibility and like respect. Yeah, I had on this incredible woman, Kendra Stevens, on the show, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and the episode was just wild, so educational, because I asked her, like, as a, you know, an African American woman, what is your perspective on all of this? And to see like so many white content creators now getting like airtime and space talking about these things that she's been talking about for 20 years.
I had no idea.
And I think in a lot of African culture, it is the norm, more so than like white.
So she is African American.
Yeah.
She's not like black, because a lot of like black people in America, they prefer to go by black. So she's actually like from like African culture.
Great question. I actually don't know,
because like now ever since like Black Lives Matter, and probably before then, but that's when it was really prevalent, like most black people are like, I want to go by black, like you call me black, you don't call me African American. So I'm interested if like, so she must be like, if that's in African culture, like kind of like the norm. Interesting.
I think more normal or more accepted in a lot. I mean, Africa's such a big continent too, so we're talking about a ton of countries, but where I mean, this is like just something that I think about, and who knows if it's right or wrong, but from my perspective and this stuff that I've read over the years, it's like ownership of land has led to ownership of animals, has led to ownership of women and children, right? Because previous to being able to cultivate crops and like stay in one place, we were nomadic. Like we had to like move around to find food and hunt animals and whatever it is. So we're going back, okay? History lesson. So like once people could like put a stake in the ground and say like, this is my land and I'm gonna like have a farm. Actually it's not here, I was gonna say in Untrue, which is Wednesday Martin's book, she goes through the history of this, of like how the dawn of the plow was like the end of women's rights. Because when we were nomadic as a society, like women were leaders, right, in their tribes, in their villages. They were very respected, they had a role to play. But as soon as we went to like farming and land ownership, land had to pass, right, from the older generations to the younger ones to like ensure that this wealth that now they've created stays in the family, or the farm stays in the family. So like now we're owning land, and you have to have kids to work your farm. And like women then, because I think not being like hunter-gatherers, we're now more homemakers, like lost value. And then there were like arranged marriages because of that. And so like, I'm not, you know, I don't have a PhD, so
but yeah, I mean, it goes so far back,
but it really does. So now we're talking about how people didn't marry for love. This was like not a thing. People just got married to keep property in the family. And so we're working off that system, which is very white, very colonialism. So in some ways, even though you're like this polyamory is like white people, and maybe it is like LA, Venice, like woke, you know, white girl leading ceremony over here. I'm just
telling you the general consensus from like because I mostly have only brown and black friends.
Yeah.
You're probably like one of like 2 or 3 of my white friends. I just not intentionally.
I know
I'm Mexican.
I've noticed.
Yeah, I'm Mexican, so just like most of my, you know, I don't know. We gravitate towards each other, of course, but like a lot of it, I've heard just in the back talk, like, yeah, that's like white people shit.
Yeah,
you know.
And it's interesting because now the perception is that it's that, but I think but it's not. The white people shit was forcing people into these like 2-person partnerships.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
With a license that the government now regulates this thing with a spiritual ceremony, and it's like, what is the purpose of that? And it really took away from like the village and non-monogamy and sexual liberation, where like, you know, I mean, who knows, because this is like hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, but women probably were equal and respected and could be as sexual as they want without anybody batting an eye. You know, and now we have that, like, because it's, you know, we have to ensure the fidelity of our children, if you're thinking about all of that. So it's like
everyone's for the children all of a sudden.
Like colonial, I think, like colonization is more like monogamy, and, you know, everything else was other. And so we're trying to like, I don't know. It's just a different way to think about it.
Hot take. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess hot take. Sorry, you know, the more you know. Thanks for attending my history lesson. That was like so all over the place. I haven't had coffee in like a week.
Oh gosh, you're right wired. That was good. That was a good latte, or flat white, I guess.
Yeah, our new coffee machine. Yeah. Well, this has been lovely.
Super informative.
I know. I'm so glad you're here. I wanted to do this. And I was sharing with you earlier in my bathroom. Like I feel like I share, and maybe in some ways like I'm still learning how to not present this side of myself that's educational, informative, a role model for non-monogamy, polyamory, so people can see a healthy way to do it. But I also want people to see this like more natural side of me. So that's really what asking for a friend is, and who better to help me bring it out than you,
than the friend in question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. That, like, I learned so much.
Yeah. How can people find you and buy your cakes?
You can find me on my Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Cakes by Alexys. Alexys is Alexys.
Yes.
Everybody puts I, but yeah, you can find me there.
Amazing.
As soon as you put it in Google, it'll pop
right
up.
The first one that pops up. Don't you dare call her Alexa.
Please.
We will see you next week. As always, do not hesitate to like, to share, to send this episode to a friend of yours. Make sure you are subscribed. It is the easiest way that the episode will just be downloaded for you. Turn on your downloads so that when you open your app, whatever it is, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, it's already there for you. And leave a question in your review or your comment, and I will answer it on the show. Ta-ta for now. All right, lovers, that is a wrap on Alexys. But before you go, I want to remind you, I am open to hosting workshops, events, and speaking about non-monogamy, or just having an event where we can meet and mingle and share our experiences in this world of non-traditional relationships. We all need community more than ever, and that is my goal here. So if you want to host an event, reach out to me either in my DMs or lover@openlatepodcast.com. That's all for now. I will see you next week.